Now, African art, both contemporary and ancient, has soared in popularity in the last few decades, with artists such as El Anatsui, Cherie Samba and Peter Hugo showcasing the best that Africa has to offer. The Royal Academy of London, Brooklyn Museum of Art and Venice Biennale have all shown prominent displays of African art, highlighting just how much the craft of the continent has taken the world by storm. Well, now, a new sale of work called Africa Now is due to be held at Bonham's Auction House here in London, and I'm joined in the studio by Giles Peppiatt, who is the director of the auction. Thank you very much indeed for coming in. First of all, just what's your assessment of the quality of art that's coming out of Africa today?
I think it's very exciting, and certainly that's one of the reasons actually why it's now so popular, because you need both the quality art and also a demand market. But certainly the works we're seeing they are of really very high quality, and I think a lot of that is due to the fact that collectors and institutions are taking great interest in this area, and that is stimulating the artists certainly to that extent to produce better work.
And is it your sense that there is considerable interest now, much more now than it was, say, 10 years ago?
Much more, much more. We've been holding the sales for about 7 years, and I will say when we first started, it was damn difficult. The past 3 years, we've seen a huge change. There are so many more buyers, there are so many more artists as well, and as I said earlier, the quality has improved, but it's the buyers that make the difference, because that's what you need to make a market buoyant. And we're seeing buyers, institutional buyers, and you mentioned some of the institutions in your preview, but we have people like the Smithsonian, the Tate, New York Museum in the States. All these people have been very public about buying contemporary African art, and then we have the private collectors as well. So it's a very exciting market to be involved in at the moment.
And is this fascination with African art some kind of colonial hangover, as someone put it, or symbolic of a more culturally aware society?
I think it's probably the latter. I mean, I think that there might be colonial interest, because obviously, certainly in Europe, we have a great connection with all parts of Africa. But I think generally it is the latter. I think it is a genuine interest in contemporary art from Africa, and certainly I think a lot of it is seen as one of the next big markets. One looks at China, Chinese contemporary art, that was huge. It has now, the star has waned certainly, and that market has dipped, and I think a lot of people are looking at Africa to provide the next big thing in the art world.
And I understand that a lot of the people, the art collectors, are actually African.
Oh yes, no, there are. There are some very big collectors in Africa, and in fact there is a new museum just been set up in Cape Town, the Museum of Contemporary African Art, which is the first museum of its kind in Africa, and it's wonderful that it is in Africa. Now fine, it's in South Africa, which is perhaps slightly different from the rest of Africa, but at least it's in Africa, and that's the great thing, not in London, New York or Paris.
And Bonhams has become a sort of old hand at this auction of African art, organising its first sale, I understand, of modern art in 2007, and now it's become an annual event.
Yeah, I think experienced hand, I've furthered up an old hand, but certainly we've been doing it for a while.
Well, you're making money from it.
Well, we are, of course we are, and we're a business, not a charitable institution, but certainly it is something that we are fortunate enough to be market leaders in. We enjoy it very much. It's an exciting market. I mean, it's great fun being involved in these new emerging markets, because you feel you're at the forefront of an artistic trend, and I think certainly contemporary African art is that at the moment.
So where are the some of the places in Africa that the most highly prized art is coming from?
Well, when you say highly prized, one has to look at why is it being bought, and certainly I think Nigeria is a very strong contender for that, and a lot of that is based on the fact that the Nigerian economy has been so strong. We all know it's slightly weak at the moment, but there is still an awful lot of wealth creation in Nigeria, and art and money are inextricably linked, and if you have a country that's producing great wealth, those people want to buy art. So I would suppose Nigeria and South Africa are the two powerhouses. We've seen a lot of interest from Kenya and Angola, but again, Angola has waned a bit because obviously the market there and the economy there has cooled, and a lot of it was based on the commodities. But certainly Nigeria and South Africa are the two main places.
Well, I just want to say thank you very much indeed for joining us. And just very quickly, the Bonham auction starts...
Yes, it's on the 15th
of October. Right, okay. And I understand the prices range from about, very small amounts of money to $4.5 million.
From about sort of 5,000 to 150,000. So it's not huge money yet.
Mr. Peppiatt, thank you very much indeed.